Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you. I've chosen for my title today, Freedom and Justice for All. Do you remember where that comes from? It's from the Pledge of Allegiance. That most of us, thank you so much, Reverend Shirley Knight. Shirley is always the first one to jump up when something needs doing, and I love that about her. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and, now I've got my iPad, I can tell you the joke I had prepared. They ask a kid, you know the country you live in? He said, yeah, 'tis of thee. This is from a nanny. A kid I used to nanny for told me with great sincerity that he made a new friend at school. His name is Pungence, and he has 2 uvulas. I was so distracted by the idea of a child named Pungence that I had to investigate. It's a girl named Prudence, whose mom and dad both drive Volvos. When I was a kid, my parents would always say, "Excuse my French," and swear. I'll never forget the first day at school when my teacher asked us if any of us knew French. All right, enough of that. So this idea of freedom and justice for all. What I hope to do today is, we're celebrating the 4th of July. We're celebrating independence. We're celebrating this nation. And I've given talks like this before where I want to remind us that the ideals that this nation is founded upon align beautifully with what we teach in Unity. Now, do we always 100% live up to those ideals? No. Just as individuals, many times we struggle to be who we really know ourselves to be as spiritual expressions of the one life, the one light. I mean, I have a human moment every 2 minutes. How about you? The same can be said for the United States of America, for every nation, that we tend to, we have a very high-minded goal for how we want to be, who we want to be, and then we don't always live up to it. But I want to really talk about this idea of liberty. I have freedom there. That's it does say liberty and justice in the Pledge of Allegiance, same word for freedom. It is one of the most important ideals upon which this country is built upon. And Ernest Holmes, in his seminal work, The Science of Mind, on the very first page, he says this: the divine plan is one of freedom. The inherent nature of humankind is ever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom, because freedom is the birthright of every living soul. And this is what we teach in Unity, that we are built for freedom from any old belief or anything that would hold us back from our authentic expression, and freedom to be that in the world, to be exactly who God created us to be. Now, the process of getting free from and free to is a process. It really is. But July 2nd, 249 years ago, this thing called the Declaration of Independence was formed. It was adopted on July 4th. It wasn't signed until August 2nd. I didn't know that. Just found that out. But do you know what it started with? It started with some people going around going, something ain't right here. Something ain't right. Taxation without representation. Colonialism. It's not right. People are not free to be who we think they ought to be. And so, Thomas Jefferson wrote it, and this is what he said: we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Something ain't right. We can look around and see we're not doing this the way we ought to be doing this together. And so what can happen from that awareness that we could be doing better? A lot of great things have happened because of that awareness. You know, up until that time, there was this thing, which still probably exists in some cultures, called the divine right of kings. Do you know about this? That kings, just by their pedigree, by their DNA, by who they married and had children with, they were of a different order. They had divinity flowing through them, and so they were ordained to rule over everybody else. And this was just the way humanity existed. This was just the culture. That certain people were not equal to other people. And this idea had been floating around in philosophy for a while, but it was actually here. Well, there, which way is east? That way, over there, northeast. Those are 13 original colonies where people were talking about this thing that isn't right. And they began to discuss what could be done. How can we create something that is more in alignment with this truth that we know to be self-evident? That there is no difference between a king and a farmer. That there is something here that is calling us to a higher order of being in the way that we function together, the agreements we make as people, the way that we're going to live as a nation. Something is different. Something can be different. So this idea that we could be more free is the very foundation upon which America is built. Well, then they signed that thing and it was all happily ever after. I mentioned process, right? Do you know, I get so tired of trusting that dang process. I am a perfectionist. Now I call myself a recovering perfectionist. But once I get a hold of an idea, the way I ought to be or the way my life ought to be, I think, well, it ought to be that just instantly. Consciousness is cause, but it has to work its way through the body. It has to work its way through my childhood experiences that rest in my conscious and unconscious mind. It has to work its way through my family system. It has to work its way through the cultural system of which I'm a part and have been born into. In other words, it's a dang process. To hold a truth as a cause. And I don't mean like a cause we're going to fight for. I mean like cause and effect. To know that this thing is true and to hold it, this is the power of our teaching. When we hold a thought in mind as being truthful and don't let it go, despite the evidence of our eyes and our senses sometimes, but to hold to no, this thing is true. And then we begin to let that process in us. Guess what happens? We start speaking a little differently. We start treating ourselves and others a little bit differently. And sooner or later, there will come actions which we take which align with the truth that we have been holding in mind, and this process is perfectly revealed as an effect. And in the case of the United States of America, we became a nation. An experiment. They sometimes call it the American experiment. How are you going to do that without kings? How are you going to do that without a class system? How are you going to do that without knowing that there's the lowers and the highers? How are you going to do that? Well, that process is still working itself out. Freedom and responsibility go hand in hand. And I have learned this certainly in my own personal life, and I had a week with a 13-year-old this past week. As she is getting older, she's got more freedom. And I expect when she's under my watch for her to have certain responsibilities. And it's been remarkable to see her kind of embrace that. She's just got a lot more ability to think things through. And yeah, there's still things that she's working on. She's in process too. But in my own life, it's taken, how old am I? 59. It's taken all this time to get to this place where I'm still in the process of learning how freedom and responsibility work together. If I'm going to be free, I have to take responsibility. America set a powerful declaration into what I would call the law of mind action almost 250 years ago. that we are going to be a place of equality, liberty, and justice for all. And so everything that is unlike that will show up, right? Affirmation is lining the condition up to the truth. As I mentioned, they said, this isn't right. The way it's going isn't right. So they said, no, we believe that it's self-evident that all men, hold on to that one, are created equal. So who were they talking about in 1776? Men, white men, who owned property. They go, well, we got it now. We did it. Look, woohoo, yay us. And here's where we can judge them by what we know now, or we can recognize that we're all part of one process of conscious evolution. They made a huge step forward, but it wasn't complete in their lifetimes, was it? This thing isn't magic. It's not like we just, oh my gosh, I got the truth, and now my life magically aligns with that truth. As I mentioned, it will continue to work itself through all of us, all of our experience. And there's a thing called chemicalization. It's an old metaphysical term. Do you know about this? If you've taken classes, you know about it here at Unity. What chemicalization says is that when we make a choice to live our life based upon a higher truth, that everything that is unlike that truth that remains in our consciousness will bubble up and show itself to us. It may get worse before it gets better, is basically what that means. You've been declaring that God is my source. I'm going to live a life of financial freedom and abundance. By God, I'm going to do it. And you bounce 3 checks. Have you ever had that experience or something like that? That's chemicalization. I've told this story before, but it's my donut story. So if you want to check out for 2 minutes, I'll let you check out. My first ministerial post, I was an associate minister at CSL Reno in the Reno Tahoe area, and moving was stressful. I just graduated from ministerial school that a couple of months earlier, and I was trying to get out of Dallas and get my household taken care of and get everything. And I moved, and I ended there in September, and my eating habits had gone horribly awry during that summer. And I'd gained some weight. I didn't feel good about the way I was eating. And I thought, well, now I'm here. I'm settled. I am making an intention that I'm going to live. I'm going to eat good. No more sugar. My very first Sunday at that church, at the end of the day, somebody hands me a box. I didn't think about it. I put it aside. I get out of their church, and I open it up, and it is a cake in the shape of a Homer Simpson donut. Giant pink donut with confetti. What do they call those things? Sprinkles on top. I was telling about this, I was laughing about it, and I ate some of it. I didn't eat the whole thing. I was talking to the other associate minister at the church. She said, well, Michael, that's just the Egyptians coming for you. In the story of the children of Israel leaving Egypt, they get to the edge of the Red Sea. They've made a declaration. They're going to the promised land. We're following our leader. We're going to get there. There's a sea in our way. I guess this is as far as we're going. And what happens next? The chariots. The soldiers from Egypt come after them. This does not look like a good ending to this story. This does not look like a good outcome to my setting my intention to live a deeper truth, does it? Donut. See, here's the deal. Chemicalization. It's the universe doing you a great favor. When you declare that you want to live a life of greater freedom, you want to live more in alignment with the spiritual reality of who and what you are, the universe says, are you sure about that? You might want to go back to Egypt. Yeah, you were in slavery, but you at least got some food, got some gruel between your making the bricks, Maybe it wasn't so bad. This happens to us in our spiritual path. Freedom is always calling us forward, always calling us higher, always calling us to live more in alignment with the truth of spiritual reality, which is about what? Freedom. Freedom from and freedom to. And so America, the founding fathers, yes, I know, made a declaration that this is going to be a place where we recognize that self-evident freedom. Less than 100 years later, an amendment to the Constitution, the 13th Amendment, was adopted. neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as punishment for a crime, whereof the parties shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Looks to me like we didn't quite get it right the first go-round. Something important was left out. And so, what happens next? The Civil War is what happened next. I know we are in divided times right now in our culture, in our politics. We've been in worse times before. And I need you to hear me about that. And I don't know where we're going from here. But we've been through this process of freedom being revealed in a people is continuing to work itself out. And then in 1920, the 19th Amendment, August 18th, the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of sex. And yet, a woman could not get a credit card in 1971 without her husband or father co-signing. This process stuff is getting old, isn't it? I'm not going to stand up here and just cheerlead the United States of America today. But I will stand here and say the ideals upon which this nation have founded are sound. They are good truths on which to build a way that we can be together as a people. And there's still life in these words. But we're experiencing some chemicalization. And it's not, well, it is wrong. I mean, in this way, like something ain't right here. We could do better. We could do better. And so we're being asked to look at it again more deeply. And here is the kicker. We're being asked, what is mine to do? What is mine to do about this thing that we're seeing in our culture today? Whew. I know I'm supposed to talk about it today. And I can feel it gets a little uncomfortable. My brother's a Pentecostal pastor, and sometimes when I'm preaching too hard, they tighten up on me. Like, it's not the language I use, but I feel you're a little tight right now. So let me move to a more positive way of holding all of this. Well, I don't know. I use my own recovery journey as a sermon illustration a lot, but it's a good one for me because it's the most lived experience of this reality and of this truth. I knew that I was being trapped by my addiction to alcohol, and I was not free to live the life that I knew was in me. I knew it. And yet there was a process. The first thing I had to do was start telling the truth about it. And that is no fun. If you're a people pleaser, if you're a perfectionist, to tell people the truth that I am an alcoholic. That was hard. And that wasn't it. Then there were some things I had to do, something like steps. But I kind of did it. At first. And after 3 years of abstinence, I relapsed because I had not been willing to go deep enough. More chemicalization. And I could look at all of that as the failure of my recovery story. They were just the steps I went through. And the truth is, I'm still going through them. By the grace of God, and some steps, and some people who helped me along the way, I haven't had a drink of alcohol in 26 and a half years. Yes, I count my half years. And I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for that. And yet the very thing that drove the alcohol addiction is driving some other things that still aren't working in my life the way I want them to. So the work continues, the process continues. But now I have less resistance, I think, than I used to. I'm in a process, the process of my own becoming. And what I'm asking us to do as citizens or residents of the United States of America is to just ask, how can I be a part of this great truth of freedom and equality being more real? What can I do? I think we have to do two things. I think we have to be patient, and I think we have to be diligent. How many of you have ever been around children? You tell them once. Doesn't work like that, does it? It's a process. Frustrating process. You know, raising children, they call it, long days and short years. It's really true. But you just stay with it. Why? Why do you stay with it? Because you love them. Because they're yours. Whether they're your children or your nieces or your nephews or just the neighbor's children, you do it because you love them. And you're willing to put up with your own discomfort in helping another human being to become self-aware because it's worth it. So I think of America as being like a 13-year-old right now. Just full of ego and I'm right. But so unaware. So much healing yet to be revealed in us. And so that's the patient part. And then the diligent part is we've got to not give up. We've got to not despair. I said on my Friday live stream, you can go watch that if you want to. It's on Facebook, if you're still on Facebook. I said that to ask ourselves two questions. Like, one is there a group that I can align myself whose values I share? And it doesn't have to be a political group. There are all sorts of wonderful social service groups that we can begin to, if we want to build a more free America, we can go find places where we can be a part of a movement because we'll get worn out on our own. But then the other question is, what is mine to do? How am I to be in my life, in my family? And that's where we have to be diligent. The donuts are going to show up. All sorts of temptations to go, well, it's over now, I just give up. All sorts of, it's going to happen. Again and again, you're going to be invited to just, it was a bad dream to start with. Let it go, let it go. So where do we stand in unity? Well, we're not going to stand politically. I'm not going to ally myself with any political party or candidate. I never have, and I never will do that. Even though some people think that I let my politics show too much, I am very clear that I'm trying to base these conversations about how we are in the public spaces and the way we are in agreements with each other on spiritual principle. And the spiritual principles that I feel are important, that I do call things out. Human rights violations, I call them out. Because our teaching doesn't allow us to otherize any group of people. It's just there's nowhere in our philosophy that you can say that LGBTQ people are not human. You can't do that. And the trans people in particular are being so singled out. We can't. That we have to recognize all people as children of God, and they are welcome in our community. So where there's a will, there's a way. But I came up with this a few years ago. I thought it was pretty good. Better than where there's a will, there's a way. There's always a way for the willing. There's always a way for the willing. We don't have to have all the answers. We just have to be willing. Use me, oh God, to help make America great. I'm not going to say the other word. Just help make it great, greater. Maybe we'll just say that, greater. Maybe we can agree that we all want to do that. I'm going to close today with a beautiful poem that gives me such hope. This is by Naomi Shihab Nye. I've read it before. Pam and I share this as one of our favorites. It's called Gate A4. Wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal after learning that my flight had been delayed 4 hours, I heard an announcement. If anyone is in the vicinity of Gate A4, understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately. Well, one pauses these days. Gate A4 was my own gate. I went there. An older woman in full traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled to the floor, wailing, "Help." "Help," said the flight agent. "Talk to her." "What is her problem?" "We told her the flight is going to be late, and she did this." I stooped to put my arm around the woman, and I spoke haltingly. "Shoot dawa, shoot biduk habit biti? Stani shwe min fadlik shubit siwi?" The moment she heard any words she knew, however poorly used, she stopped crying. She thought the flight had been canceled entirely. She needed to be in El Paso for major medical treatment the next day. I said, "No, we're fine. You'll get there just later. Who is picking you up? Let's call him." We called her son. I spoke with him in English. I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and ride next to her. She talked to him. Then we called her other sons just for the fun of it. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found out, of course, that they had 10 shared friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took 2 hours. She was laughing a lot by then, telling of her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She had pulled a sack of homemade mamoul cookies, little powdered sugar, crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts from her bag, and was offering them to all of the women at the gate. And to my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely woman from Laredo, we were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There is no better cookie. And then the airline broke out free apple juice from huge coolers, and 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving it, and they were covered with powdered sugar too. I noticed my new best friend, by now we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking out of her bag, some medicinal thing with green furry leaves. Such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant. Always stay rooted to somewhere. And I looked around that gate of late and weary ones, and I thought, this is the world I want to live in. The shared world. Not a single person in that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies. I wanted to hug all those other women too. This can still happen anywhere. All is not lost. Thank you, Naomi. Let's pray. Let's applaud that poem. And now pray with me if you would. We begin with that thought. All is not lost. We still belong to each other. There is only one life, one source of all being. And each of us, all of humanity, is a beautiful expression of God's creativity and love. All of us brought forth for the idea of spiritual freedom. And so I'm grateful for this teaching called Unity, called New Thought, that begins at its most fundamental truth of oneness, unity. We are one with God, one with each other. In this world, it's so easy to forget and to be confused by the illusion of separation. But in this moment, for all of us within the sound of my voice, I draw us back together. We are one. We belong to each other. And I know that simply knowing this truth begins to change us fundamentally at the level of gene and DNA. I know that this begins to change how we view the world, how we view ourselves, how we view people who disagree with us. They may draw a circle to exclude us. We draw a bigger circle to include us all. We are one. And so I trust that whatever those changes coming about in us individually or collectively, they begin to manifest as higher choices, higher actions that reveal oneness in human form, in public spaces, in policy, that we begin to see no one as the other, but we recognize we are all in this together, seeking freedom, seeking connection, seeking love. And I'm so grateful to know that that which we seek is already within us. We are created in the image and likeness of perfect love. And so we rest in that truth. We await further instructions from our intuitive mind that tells us how we are to be, what we are to do, so that we can be a part of a new awakening of connection and freedom, of liberty and justice for all. Thank you, God. So it is. Amen. Well, I just saw some people check their watches. So how are we doing? We're okay. Thank you for listening. I do love this country. I love our flag. I want to be a part of something wonderful happening in our country, and I hope you'll join me in that endeavor. And if you're looking for a community that will support you in your growth and in your becoming, this may be the place for you, and it may not be, but it's a good one. And if no one has told you today that they love you, I love you. God bless you. Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.